today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Another look at the upcoming Kreps versus Rivas fight set to go down early next month on the 4th at the Seneca Resort and Casino.
This is a big step up for Micaiah, who's been looking promising. From the moment I saw this fighter, I felt she's got everything it takes to become a world champion, but to further prove that, she's got to take on a former champion. She's got to take on Rivas.
Rivas, the more statuesque, long and limber fighter of the two, mobile as well, registered as standing in at 5'5", where Micaiah is a more portly 5'3". Mayerline, 36 years old.
An orthodox fighter. Micaiah's an orthodox fighter as well. She's 28, younger and fresher.
8 years younger, to be exact. The fresher fighter of the two, the faster fighter of the two, and speed will have its role to play. I think that will help to separate them. Micaiah sports an unblemished record of 8 wins with no losses, no draws, 3 knockouts to Mayerline. Sports professional record of 17 wins with 5 losses, 3 draws, 11 knockouts, having never been knocked out. In 25 professional bouts, needless to say that Mayerline is the vastly more experienced fighter of the two, though after a while, there is such a thing as too much experience. Remember that Mayerline is in her mid-30s. Remember that Mayerline is coming off a loss, a points decision loss, to Erica Cruz. And remember that that was in November of last year, whereas this fight is going down in October of this one. So that's saying that Mayerline has been inactive most of this year and has not seen action in the last 11 months. Just 1 month shy of an entire year. Micaiah, comparatively, has been more active. She saw action 2 times last year, and she's already seen action once this one in May, opposite the ring Melissa Odessa Parker, who she beat by way of a unanimous decision. This will be Micaiah's second fight of this year, a necessary evil, a necessary litmus test that if you want to prove you have what it takes to become a champion, you should be able to beat a former champion. What should we expect to see?
How's this fight gonna look? How's Micaiah gonna win?
Micaiah will be facing a more statuesque, long and limber fighter than herself in Mayerline Rivas, who characteristically likes to move around, set traps, land, then move in.
She's not just gonna sell out and trade punches with Micaiah.
She's gonna move lateral, hang back, look to set up a counter. If she lands it, then she'll move in. If she doesn't, she's gonna keep moving around.
She'll hang back until she does.
It's gonna be Mayerline hanging back and Micaiah coming forward, pressing the issue, closing the distance, being careful when she does it.
Mindful of the jab, catching punches on the arms and gloves, slipping when she needs to, bobbing and weaving when she needs to. She's gonna try to walk down Mayerline Rivas, get mid-range to inside.
Which can be a frustrating situation for the shorter fighter, closing the distance if the taller fighter won't engage.
I think the aesthetic of this fight, how it's gonna look, it's gonna look like the Kedra Bradley fight that Micaiah had in May of 2022, 2 years ago. This fight is gonna look like that one.
Mayerline is gonna do her best to keep that jab out there, stay behind it, and peck away at Micaiah as she comes forward looking to set up her own offense.
Though because I think there's a difference in speed, because I think Micaiah, being the fresher, younger fighter of the two,
fresher, younger legs, that will help her to keep up with and keep the pressure on Mayerline Rivas.
That will help her to explode when the moment is right.
Speed will be a determining factor here. Who's got more hand speed? Who's got more foot speed? That's what's going to create the separation. And I think that Micaiah will win that battle.
Moreover, Micaiah has home field advantage. This fight is going down in her neck of the woods. Because Mayerline Rivas likes to spend so much time within a round on her bike, so much time moving around in a fight, she comes dangerously close to being outworked.
That's what happened in the Erica Cruz fight. That's how Mayerline Rivas lost her WBA Super Bantamweight title. She spent more time moving than punching, more time moving than asserting herself. Against a smaller fighter with a shorter center of gravity, barreling forward and being aggressive, Mayerline is very careful when she wants to let punches go. Perhaps too careful at times, and that will work against her in Micaiah's neck of the woods. You gotta engage.
You're the away fighter. any consideration the judges are going to give in rounds that are hard to score, it's going to go to the hometown fighter. It's going to go to Micaiah.
Expect that the output from Ma Yurlin is going to be sparse punches that are far and few and none too ambitious, whereas the work from Micaiah will be more consistent, and that's what's going to win her the fight. Consistency. She's not going to knock out Ma Yurlin. She's not going to ragdoll her, but she will outpoint her.
The era of the Sugarfoot fighter is over. That minimalist approach to boxing and boxers that think they're winning the fight just because they're not getting hit. You're not doing much hitting either.
All those folks who like to say that it's hit and not get hit, it seems like a lot of fighters just focus on the last part.
The not getting hit part, and forget about the hitting part.
And thus, Micaiah Kreps on points is the pick. I think she's going to win a points decision early next month in Niagara Falls. Men's heavyweight news. Anthony Joshua, ahead of the Daniel Dubois fight, has said he could still fight Deontay Wilder in the future. The fight could still happen. For me, why not? I've always said it's not a big deal for me. Strip away the bright lights and the trash talk. It's only a fight. So, yeah, I'd fight Wilder, but would Deontay Wilder fight him? You know, we've been all through this.
We don't got to do the whole history lesson again. We've done that to death.
Where Deontay Wilder is now, at his age and at this stage, he doesn't have a future in the sport anymore. I vaguely recall hearing that they might afford him one more opportunity in Riyadh's season a week or so ago, maybe more.
But what live body could you put in there with Deontay Wilder that he could beat?
I can think of one or two fights that you might be able to sell, like a Dillian White fight or a Jarrell Miller fight. You know, Wilder's got a lot of history with Dillian, and Jarrell Miller, he's such a talented trash talker that he could sell it. He could sell a fight with Wilder, but could you trust Wilder to beat those guys, to beat those fighters when it seems that the fight has been beaten out of him?
You could put him in the ring with Francis Ngannou. Francis is coming off of 2 losses, just like Wilder.
You can't just shove Wilder in there with Anthony Joshua if Anthony beats Daniel, knocks him out the way I think he's going to knock him out. If he becomes IBF champion, no, you can't just fast-track Wilder to that fight off of 2 consecutive lopsided losses. It's clear that the fight isn't now what it could have been years ago.
You can't just stick him in there now.
He's cannon fodder. There might be 1 or 2 misguided souls left of what used to be Wilder's bomb squad. But for the most part, most of the boxing world would agree that Wilder's cannon fodder at this point, where Anthony Joshua is still on the up and up. Wilder is circling the drain. He's only won 1 fight in the last 4 going on 5 years. Just 1 fight.
Yeesh.
Off of 2 back-to-back losses to Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang. Before you put him in there with Anthony, you would presumably need to put him in a rebound fight.
Wait, go back.
Where Anthony is saying that he would still fight Deontay Wilder. He's still open to that fight. If he beats Daniel and becomes IBF champion, what Turkey wants to do is put Fury in the ring with Anthony. Whether Fury wins or loses against Usyk, that's who he wants to put in the ring with him, right? So in this scenario where Anthony's doing that, Wilder would presumably be rebounding with someone, maybe a Dillian White, or a Jarrell Miller, or a Francis Ngannou. And the question is, does Wilder have enough in the tank? Does he have enough left that he could beat those fighters? And I don't trust him to beat those fighters. I don't trust him to beat anyone with a pulse, anyone who wants to fight, because he doesn't.
He doesn't want to fight.
This fight is dead, and that ship has sailed. A long time ago, I told you that this fight would go the same way the Lewis versus Bowe fight went, and that's nowhere.
It wouldn't happen.
So many in the American boxing scene have not learnt their lesson from this fight. That in boxing, you can't wait. You have to strike while the iron is hot, and while you know the interest, the grassroots interest, is there. Now, I don't know that it was ever Team Wilder's intention to fight Anthony Joshua, given the number of offers they rejected, each one bigger than the last. I don't know that they ever wanted to really do that fight.
There's a legitimate argument that they didn't, that they never wanted that fight.
But just for argument's sake, just for conversation, let's say that they did. That would make this a missed opportunity.
This fight, having not happened, hurt boxing. More specifically, it hurt the American boxing scene.
So many won't tell the story that way because in this story, it's the American fighter that screwed the pooch. It's the American fighter's fault that it didn't happen, and because of that, the lesson is lost. and the sport doesn't learn from it. That you can't treat every single fight like it's Mayweather versus Pacquiao, waiting 4 and 5 years to do it, because you may not have 4 and 5 years. You could lose your next fight, and if you do,
then what?
I know that the lesson is lost because I see how people are reacting to this Ennis versus Norman situation. Brian Norman, who rejected a career-high purse to quote-unquote back himself and bet on himself by fighting a lesser opponent for less money. Gee, where have I seen that before?
Fighting what they think is a safer opponent for less money. Gee, where have I seen that before?
That's what Wilder thought he was doing with Tyson Fury. A miscalculation. It backfired, and it's been downhill ever since. I see that so many in the American boxing scene have not learned from that, because there are actually people defending Brian Norman, turning down all that money.
What they think is business savvy is really just cowardice and greed disguised behind the guise of business. It's risk-averse management.
That same mentality is the reason that Wilder never fought AJ.
It's the same thing.
Deontay Wilder not fighting Anthony Joshua hurt the American boxing scene, because that was one of the few fights in the last 5 or 6 years that the Americans could get behind. Even the casual boxing fans could have got behind that one. And you know what they say about heavyweights? There's nothing like when the big boys are fighting, when the heavyweights are fighting, especially if it's for undisputed. I mean, that fight had everything you wanted in a fight. 2 knockout merchants, 2 knockout artists, young guys, dangerous, both champions in their prime. You couldn't ask for more.
For a boxing fan, for a promoter, you couldn't ask for a more marketable fight than this one. You know, I really liked Usyk versus Fury. It was a great fight to watch, but that fight was nowhere near as big as this one would have been, could have been, if Wilder hadn't screwed the pooch. So that when a fight like this doesn't happen, the American audience that might have been mildly interested in boxing is no longer interested in boxing, because boxing is failing to provide interesting fights.
You can blame the American.
It's his fault. And that's how this fight, having not happened, hurt the American boxing scene. This was a fight that people were buzzing about in America.
On a smaller scale, when a Brian Norman doesn't fight a Jaron Ennis, and he fights a Cuevas instead, how many people do you think are interested in a fight like that? When Boots Ennis ends up having to fight Karen Chukadzian again, I mean, their first fight wasn't a fun fight to watch. Do you think the second one will be? What excitement does a situation like that create within the American boxing sphere?
This is how these guys hurt American boxing. This is how.
It hurts the boxing scene when a Wilder doesn't fight a Joshua, or when a Norman doesn't fight a Boots.
It hurts it.
Though once again, because so many in the American boxing sphere don't want to hold Wilder accountable for the sake of him being American, the lesson is lost. That you can't put these fights on hold the way that you have been. If there's a grassroots interest and you can see it, then you need to do it as soon as possible, because you ain't got all day and time waits for no man.
It didn't wait for them.
AJ might still be open to it, but I'm not. As a consumer, a guy who spends a lot of money on boxing, as far as I'm concerned, that fight is dead.
It's past the sell-by date. It's the one that got away, and it's time to move on.
And finally, in men's heavyweight news, veteran fighter Derek Chisora has predicted that Fury-Usyk will stop Tyson Fury in their rematch. I don't think Tyson was 100%. He had a massive cut, he didn't spar the way he wanted to spar, and he was underprepared. He was mucking around for the first 4 or 5 rounds because the confidence wasn't there. I think Usyk stops him this time. Him and Sugar Hill Stewart, that relationship is kind of dying down. I was surprised to hear this coming from Derek, because him and Tyson Fury, they're bosom buddies, aren't they? I mean, at minimum, they are acquaintances. So for him to give this kind of a prediction, you know, usually what people do is they toe the line. The British fighter will root for the other British fighter.
The American for the American, the Mexican for the Mexican. You know how it goes.
So when it's Derek Chisora, of all people, predicting that Tyson Fury will get stopped, and not only that, but that there is dissension in the corner, that him and Sugar Hill, they're not getting along as famously as they used to, as they did immediately after beating Deontay Wilder.
Well, he's still there.
He didn't fire him, even though his dad, Big John Fury, wanted Tyson Fury to sack him, wanted Tyson Fury to get rid of Sugar Hill Stewart. There was a back and forth exchange on Instagram earlier today between Usyk and Fury. Alexander tagged Fury and asked him, "Are you ready to which Tyson Fury responded, on the 23rd of December, you will still get smashed up, kid.
The question is, are you?
Is Usyk ready? Yeah, I think Usyk is ready. I think Usyk's been ready. I think Usyk's been getting ready for Tyson Fury long before they actually fought. The level of patience it takes to have to deal with Tyson Fury.
All the mucking about.
We have Turkey Al-Sheikh to thank for that fight, because if not for him, I guarantee you that we wouldn't have got it. If Turkey hadn't put up whatever dollar amount he put up, Fury didn't want this thing. Fury didn't want undisputed.
But money, as they say. He wants money, and money is the great motivator.
I have no doubts it's money that's motivating him to run it back, to have a rematch, because if not for that, he might have walked.
He almost got stopped in the first fight. Derek says he is going to get stopped. In the second, I agree. That's what I've been saying.
The corner stuff is what has my attention, because I wondered, would Sugar Hill Stewart still be on board for a rematch, or would he sack him the way that Big John Fury wanted him to sack him?
Sugar Hill Stewart seems like a bit of a jinx at this point, once regaled as one of the best trainers in the sport. If you've been paying attention, well, Fury lost, and Jelena Marjanovic lost, and Jared Anderson lost.
A good number of Sugar Hill Stewart's fighters have been faltering, have been losing, but he's still in Fury's corner, apparently, according to Derek Chisora, though they're not getting along as good as they used to. Does Fury blame Sugar Hill?
I'm not sure. If he did, one would think that he would have got rid of Sugar Hill, hired someone else. But then again, is this the fight where you want to do that? Break in a new trainer and experiment.
It's what he did with Deontay Wilder when he first hired Sugar Hill Stewart. He sacked Ben Davison, swapped him out for Sugar Hill. Of course, he wasn't coming off a loss then. And in how many videos did I tell you that whatever Fury got away with Wilder, whatever, it's not going to work with Usyk.
Those were better times.
A lot of the chaos that we saw in the corner, that was a power struggle, it seemed. A power struggle between Sugar Hill Stewart trying to provide instruction to Tyson Fury as Tyson's dad is shouting over him.
So maybe that's what changes. Maybe what changes in the second fight is John Fury's not in the corner. Sugar Hill is still there, but John isn't.
John is the live wire, after all. He's the loose cannon. Chaos in the corner, chaos before the fight with a member of Usyk's team that he headbutted.
Chaos.
Maybe that's what changes. Maybe that's who he gets rid of ahead of this second fight. Maybe. I don't think it's going to help, because I don't think he lost because of John. I don't think he lost because of Sugar.
Even if chaos ensued in the corner, it's because they saw the direction the fight was going, and the fight was going in that direction because of Usyk.
It's too convenient to blame it all on chaos in the corner.
To me, Fury lost that fight long before the first punch was thrown.